You are standing in the marble halls of Pepilolis in 539 BCE. The morning light filters through carved stone windows as you hear the distant sound of approaching hoofbeats. You are the daughter of a conquered king, raised in luxury, educated in philosophy and statecraft, accustomed to commanding armies of servants with a single gesture. But those footsteps belong to Persian soldiers who have just shattered your world forever. Your father's kingdom has fallen. Your brothers lie dead on the battlefield. And you are about to discover that for royal women in the ancient world, capture by the Persians meant something far more complex and psychologically devastating than simple death. What awaits you represents a systematic transformation so complete that modern audiences struggle to comprehend its reality. For over 2 centuries, the Persian Empire dominated the ancient world, stretching from India to Egypt, controlling territories that encompassed dozens of conquered kingdoms. We remember their architectural achievements, their administrative innovations, their reputation for religious tolerance. But there exists another dimension to Persian conquest that historians have largely overlooked when examining how this enduring empire treated the wives and sisters of defeated royalty. A calculated approach to psychological control that reduced noble women to instruments of imperial policy while maintaining the appearance of honor and respect. Before we dive deeper into this forgotten chapter of ancient history, if you find these untold stories compelling, consider subscribing and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. It helps us create more content exploring the complex truths that challenge everything we think we know about the ancient world. The moment you were captured as a royal woman by Persian forces, your life entered a carefully orchestrated system designed not to destroy you, but to transform you into something entirely different. This was not an accidental brutality or random cruelty. This was deliberate imperial policy, implemented with the same precision the Persians brought to road construction and tax collection. The Persian approach to conquered royal women reveals something deeply disturbing about how sophisticated civilizations can normalize psychological manipulation while calling it mercy. Your capture would begin with what Persian administrators called the ceremony of integration. Unlike other ancient empires that simply enslaved or executed royal captives, the Persians understood that noble women represented valuable political assets requiring specialized handling. You would be transported not in chains, but in covered wagons befitting your former status. Persian officials would address you by your royal titles, even as they escorted you hundreds of miles from everything you had ever known. This apparent respect masked a calculated process of psychological conditioning. The journey to Persepolis or Susa could take months, during which Persian escorts would gradually introduce you to your new reality. They would explain that your survival depended on embracing Persian customs, learning the Persian language, and accepting that your previous identity no longer existed. The message was clear without being explicitly threatening. Cooperation meant comfort and possibility. Resistance meant disappearance into the vast Persian bureaucracy where noble birth offered no protection. Upon arrival at the Persian court, you would discover that dozens of other royal women from conquered territories had undergone this same transformation. Former princesses from Lydia, Babylon, Egypt, and India now served various functions within the imperial household. Some had become minor wives of Persian nobles. Others served as cultural advisors, helping to govern their former territories. A few had achieved remarkable influence as trusted counselors to the great king himself, but this apparent success came at a price that would have horrified your former self. The Persian system required complete psychological surrender. You could retain your royal dignity only by abandoning your royal identity. You could influence imperial policy only by serving Persian interests. You could achieve power only by helping to subjugate others from your homeland. The imperial harem represented the most sophisticated aspect of this system. Far from the stereotypical image of imprisoned concubines, the Persian royal household functioned as a complex political institution where captured noble women could achieve significant authority. But this authority came through a process that systematically stripped away their original cultural identity while replacing it with Persian values and Persian loyalty. Royal captives entering the harem underwent years of education in Persian customs, language, religion, and political philosophy. They learned to write in cuneiform, to worship Ahura Mazda, to navigate the intricate protocols of Persian court life. Those who demonstrated exceptional intelligence and adaptability could rise to positions of genuine influence, advising the great king on matters ranging from provincial administration to military strategy. The psychological brilliance of this system lay in how it offered real rewards for complete cultural transformation. A captured Lydian princess could become more powerful as a Persian noblewoman than she had ever been in her father's court. An Egyptian royal daughter could influence imperial policy affecting millions of people across 3 continents. But these achievements required abandoning everything that had previously defined their identity. Persian administrators documented these transformations with bureaucratic precision. Royal archives contain detailed records tracking the progress of noble captives as they moved through various stages of integration. Initial assessments noted their educational background, political knowledge, and potential usefulness to imperial administration. Follow-up reports documented their adaptation to Persian customs, their loyalty demonstrations, and their readiness for advancement within the imperial hierarchy. The most successful captives became what Persian sources termed bridge builders, serving as intermediaries between Persian administrators and their conquered homelands. These women possessed intimate knowledge of local customs, political networks, and potential resistance movements. Their cooperation proved invaluable for maintaining Persian control over distant territories without requiring massive military occupations. But the price of this collaboration was profound psychological fragmentation. These women lived in constant tension between their original identity and their adopted Persian persona. They wielded influence over their former subjects while serving the interests of their conquerors. They enjoyed luxury and respect while knowing that their elevated status depended on their willingness to betray their own cultural heritage. Persian records reveal that some noble captives thrived within this system, achieving levels of power and influence that would have been impossible in their original kingdoms. They established their own courts, minted coins bearing their names, founded cities and governed territories with populations in the hundreds of thousands. Archaeological evidence confirms that several former royal captives became wealthy enough to commission major architectural projects and sponsor religious ceremonies throughout the Persian territories. However, success within the Persian system required capabilities that not every captured noble woman possessed. Those who struggled with cultural adaptation, who showed signs of resistance, or who failed to demonstrate useful skills, faced a different fate entirely. They disappeared into the lower levels of the imperial household, serving as domestics, entertainers, or minor concubines with no hope of advancement or recognition. The Persian approach to conquered royal women represented something more psychologically complex than simple slavery or execution. It offered genuine opportunities for power and influence while demanding complete cultural surrender. It preserved the appearance of honor and respect while systematically destroying original identity. It created success stories that validated the system while concealing the psychological cost of that success. The documentation reveals patterns that challenge our understanding of mercy and cruelty in the ancient world. Persian administrators maintained meticulous records of what they termed successful integrations alongside detailed accounts of those who failed to adapt. These archives paint a picture of systematic psychological experimentation conducted on an imperial scale. For those noble women who could not or would not embrace their transformation, the Persian system offered alternatives that were perhaps more terrifying than outright execution. They became what Persian sources called the forgotten ones, women whose royal blood remained acknowledged, but whose existence became a kind of living erasure. These captives found themselves assigned to remote Persian outposts, serving as administrators' wives in frontier territories, where their noble birth meant nothing and their former kingdoms existed only in increasingly distant memories. The psychological warfare embedded in this process extended far beyond individual victims. Persian administrators understood that creating visible success stories among captured royal women served multiple strategic purposes. When word spread that a conquered princess had achieved power and influence within the Persian court, it encouraged cooperation from other noble families facing Persian conquest. The message was clear: surrender could lead to elevation rather than destruction. But the Persian system also created a more insidious form of control through what their records call maternal leverage. Noble women who successfully integrated into Persian society often bore children who would grow up as Persian citizens with no connection to their mother's original kingdoms. These children became living bonds, ensuring their mother's continued loyalty to the empire that had destroyed their ancestral heritage. The most successful Persian integration programs involved pairing captured royal women with Persian nobles in carefully arranged marriages that served imperial administrative purposes. A former Egyptian princess might be married to a Persian satrap governing territories in Asia Minor, combining her political knowledge with his administrative authority to create more effective provincial control. These unions produced children who inherited both Persian citizenship and intimate knowledge of conquered territories, creating generations of administrators uniquely qualified to govern diverse populations. Persian marriage contracts from this period reveal the calculated nature of these arrangements. Legal documents specified that noble captives retained certain ceremonial privileges reflecting their royal birth, while accepting complete subordination to Persian law and custom. They could maintain private households, own property, and exercise authority over servants, but only within frameworks that ultimately served Persian imperial interests. The economic dimensions of this system proved equally sophisticated. Persian administrators discovered that captured royal women possessed valuable knowledge about trade routes, resource locations, and commercial networks in their former kingdoms. A Lydian princess might know the locations of hidden gold mines. A Babylonian royal daughter could provide intelligence about grain storage facilities and irrigation systems. This information became part of their value within the Persian integration process. Archaeological evidence from Persian administrative centers reveals specialized facilities designed for processing noble captives. These complexes included comfortable quarters for newly arrived royal prisoners, education facilities where they learned Persian customs, and meeting halls where they were interviewed by imperial officials assessing their potential usefulness. The infrastructure suggests a permanent bureaucratic system designed to handle the steady flow of captured nobility from Persian military campaigns. But perhaps the most disturbing aspect of the Persian approach was how it created willing participants in the expansion of the very system that had destroyed their original identities. Successfully integrated royal women often became active advocates for Persian conquest, arguing that cooperation offered better outcomes than resistance. They would write letters to royal families in threatened kingdoms, describing their own elevated status within the Persian court and encouraging surrender as preferable to military defeat. The Persian imperial archives contain correspondence from former captives, serving as informal ambassadors to their homelands. These letters describe lavish lifestyles, political influence, and opportunities for advancement available to those who embraced Persian rule. They present conquest not as national destruction, but as cultural evolution toward a more sophisticated civilization. The psychological manipulation embedded in these communications reveals how completely the Persian system had transformed these women into instruments of imperial expansion. The long-term consequences of this approach shaped the political landscape of the ancient world in ways that historians are only beginning to understand. Persian territories remained remarkably stable compared to other ancient empires, partly because local populations saw examples of their former rulers achieving success within the Persian system. The visible presence of respected former enemy royalty serving Persian interests created legitimacy that purely military occupation could never achieve. Yet beneath this apparent success lay psychological devastation that Persian records occasionally acknowledge through coded language referring to melancholia, nocturnal disturbances, and what they termed homeland sickness among integrated captives. Medical texts from Persian court physicians describe treatments for noble women experiencing what modern psychology would recognize as severe identity disorders resulting from cultural displacement. The Persian approach to conquered royal women reveals something profoundly unsettling about the nature of psychological control in sophisticated civilizations. It demonstrates how systems can destroy human identity while maintaining the appearance of honor and opportunity. It shows how individual success within oppressive structures can mask systematic brutalization of entire cultures. Most disturbing of all, it reveals how victims can become willing participants in perpetuating the very systems that victimize them. The marble halls of Persepolis witnessed transformations that challenge every assumption about conquest, survival, and human adaptability in the ancient world. The evidence preserved in the stone tablets and buried beneath ancient palaces tells a story that defies our modern understanding of conquest and survival. For over 2 centuries, the Persian Empire perfected a system of psychological transformation that was more devastating than execution because it offered hope, while systematically destroying everything that made these women who they were. Their names survive in Persian archives. Their coins rest in museum collections. Their architectural projects still dot the landscape from Turkey to Afghanistan. But behind every success story lies a human being who paid the ultimate price for survival, trading their soul for the illusion of power. This wasn't ancient barbarism or medieval chaos. This was calculated psychological warfare implemented with industrial precision by one of history's most sophisticated civilizations. The Persian system reminds us how quickly advanced societies can normalize the unthinkable when it serves imperial interests. These women faced a choice more terrifying than death, because death would have preserved their identity while survival demanded its complete erasure. Their stories force us to confront uncomfortable truths about power, survival, and the price of adaptation when faced with forces beyond our control. The marble halls of Persepolis stand empty now, but their legacy echoes through history, reminding us that the most effective forms of conquest aren't always the most obvious ones.